Good day, viewers. Welcome to the maiden edition of Biochemistry to the World. This is an initiative of the Editorial Board of GHABSA-KNUST aimed at bridging the gap between biochemistry students and biochemists who are making phenomenal changes in society. I hope that at the end of this interview, you would be educated, inspired, and entertained. My name has always been Aliata Uthman. I am the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of GHABSA-KNUST, and I'll be your host for today. Without wasting much time, I would like to introduce our guest for today. He is in the person of Dr. Alexander Kwarteng. He is a senior lecturer in the Department of Biochemistry and Biotechnology. He holds an MPhil in clinical microbiology from KNUST and a PhD in molecular biomedicine from the University of Bonn in Germany. Now I'll leave the rest of the introduction for him to do. He was my academic tutor in first year, and I must say this man is a genius. Dr. Kwarteng, you are welcome to our maiden edition of GHABSA Biochemistry to the World, and we are privileged to have you as our first guest for this show. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you very much, Eliata, and I'm extremely excited this afternoon for this particular interview, and I hope that we'll be able to make some interactions with most of your students. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, for the benefits of those who don't know you, we would like you to add up to the introduction and tell us a little about your personal life, your educational background, and your specialization in biochemistry.
Right. Thank you very much for your question. So something small about myself. Most of the time it's a little bit difficult once you've been asked to say something about yourself. So like you said, I was here 2002 to 2006 and continue with the, my master's in MPhil clinical microbiology and then somewhere in 2010, and then continued. I got a DAD scholarship then to pursue my PhD in Germany with specialization in immunology, and particularly trying to look at host pathogen interaction and so forth, as well, how the immune response actually comes about during maybe an infection and so forth and so on. So this has been a unique area that I've been working. There are quite other things that I do, but I'm sure that as the discussion moves on, we'll be able to touch more into that. So I'm a family person. I'm blessed with two girls, beautiful girls, Darren and Phoebe. Wow. I love them so much. Unfortunately, I don't have much time for them. I'm trying to change. Hopefully, I do better in the coming years. And so that's just something small about me for now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, you mentioned you specialize in immunology. So how has the experience been so far? I mean, how would you describe life after graduation?
Well, it's been very exciting, and like I tell the students most of the time, you have to enjoy everything that you do. I enjoy what I do. I wish I would get more time to do what I do, but we all have 24 hours, and one of the interesting things is that after school you are exposed to the world. I mean, when you're in school, there has a confinement, there's this regulation, you have to go here, come to classroom, but after school, of course, you also be working with some regulations here and there, but you have to find your feet, how to navigate through the world system to be able to make a name, either for yourself or to make an impact for your community and your population. That comes with some challenges on its own, but it's on the individual basis, and for me it is very exciting. It hasn't been easy. It comes with a lot of determination, a lot of hard work, a lot of persistence, a lot of fighting, a lot of infighting and outfighting to be able to strategically position yourself in a place to make your dream come true. So that has always been what is keeping me going, and has been some of my experience after school, after maybe my graduation from the undergraduate level.
Okay. So we want to know, did you choose biochemistry in undergrad, or in quotes, biochemistry chose you? I mean, are you a medical school reject or FAMD reject, or you wanted biochemistry from the beginning?
Right. I mean, that is very interesting. In fact, I didn't come to biochemistry. I had my bachelor degree in biology, interestingly.
Wow.
But I always had the immunology, which is a component of biochemistry that attracted me. That was really nice. I was taught by Prof. Zobefia, who is she introduced us to immunology in our third year those days in biology, and I really loved that. And I really wanted to, after the first degree, I also wanted to get some component about immunology goes more or less with infection. And so then I had to understand how pathogens or microbes induce this kind of response. So then I took the microbiology. Then eventually I came forward to the biochemistry stream too. So that is how it started, and it brought me into the biochemistry. Right.
Wow.
So I'm not a reject. And of course, I mean, I know most of the students feel like, oh, I wanted to do medicine, I've been a reject, and I'm not happy here, and so forth and so on. That should not be the case. Biochemistry is never a second thought place for anything. It should be the first, and it provides a very fundamental basis, particularly with respect to the life sciences. And I think that our students should have this conviction in their heart. You should never think that I wanted to go to medical school, they didn't take me, so I'm in biochemistry, I'm not happy, I'm looking for an exit. This is a wrong mentality, and it has to be stopped. It is an important component of the life sciences, which has huge benefits for anybody that goes through. And sometimes I'm even sorry that I didn't go through undergraduate, or how do you call it, the basic bachelor, BSc in biochemistry, because there are many things that one will understand better if you go through that. So I think it's a huge opportunity. Anybody that's taking that is a blessing. They should stop crying and let's enjoy the life, as I tell you, enjoy every process that you go through. Right.
I wouldn't blame them that much, because we've been hearing this in quotes. Biochemistry is not a professional program. Biochemistry is not a professional program. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think that is, I mean, if somebody says that the person has not so much insight in the life sciences and what pertains to biomedical science today, right? If you enter in any serious lab around the world, it's primarily driven by other biologists or biochemists, right? And I will tell you something small. I was recently with the NIH where we to do some research work, and most of the scientists, they are biochemists, because you need to understand the structure of the molecules, the interaction, the reactivity, the enzymes, and the things that, and this is biochemistry. It doesn't matter where you're, but if you want to go into the life science, majority of the guys that are excelling, look at the DNA, look at the structures, look at the RNA. You come to think of it, if there's anything that you can do by eliminating the biochemists, it's really hard to tell. And so that really brings the information that the biochemist is really important and is never a reject or a second place, and at least all life scientists should have a basis in biochemistry. That is I know some people are going to sort me for that, but I care less. The most important thing is that students should be confident about what they're doing. There's a huge prospect and a lot of opportunities that we have no idea of. And that I find it extremely amazing. Today you will not see, but in the future, after 5 years, 6 years down the line, you will appreciate exactly what we are talking about today.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I would like to know, what is your motivation? I mean, what pushes you to aspire to the highest? I mean, through the educational ladder, you've moved from undergrad to postgrad. What is your motivation?
Right, the motivation comes from several levels, but for me, the fundamental one is the impact that I can make on the lives of individuals, particularly people in a deprived setting. I want to be able to touch them with my research and my interaction and what I'm doing so far to make a change in their life. That for me has become very important. It's not about money, it's not about fame, but it's about if we can bring some form of comfort, some other people living in places that are deprived to a certain extent. And therefore, I think that really drives me to do the things that I do. But I hope one day that dream will come to pass. It's what keeps me moving, right?
But I'm sure the journey hasn't been very smooth. You have faced some challenges along the way. Can you tell us some of them and how you were able to overcome them, whether in school or outside school? Any challenge that you faced?
Right, so the challenges, of course, could come from different angles. If I see myself as a researcher, the challenge will come from, in the case of grants, because we need grants to be able to drive our ideas, our objectives, to be able to make impact. And there are a lot of setbacks and difficulties in that area, because you're going to compete for a small amount of money. Everybody's looking for it. You have to craft a story that will really motivate the funders to listen to exactly what you want to do, and most of the time you are not successful. So I write a lot of grants, and the majority of them reject. You have to have the tenacity, you have to have the strength, the mental capacity to hold that. Otherwise you get one or two reject and you feel like, oh my God, I don't want to do it again. But the more I get a reject, the more I try. And as I try, sometimes I win. Not all the time, but sometimes I win through. And that for me is very exciting and very, very interesting to go through. When it comes to the academic front, I see a lot of potential students that I wish I could help, but sometimes the resources are not there. And I see that very, very unfortunate. It touches my heart, right? And so I believe that with time we'll be able to make much more progress. But the challenges are there. I mean, the workload. Today I know many of you students would have had one-on-one interpersonal, how do you call it, mentorship stuff. We are trying to do our best, even as a department or a college or university. But one of the things I see is that sometimes the workload is too high, and therefore we are not able to have enough time to really mentor you properly. This for me is a little bit disturbing, because to make impact out there, you need to be mentored properly. You need to be taught how things are done properly, so that you can touch the skies or be able to make a lot of impact. This I see, we've started in our own way. We're making some progress, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And I believe that in the future, we'll be able to get there. But these are some of the things that I see to be very challenging for me today. And hopefully, in the coming years, we'll be able to make some significant progress.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm assuming you've taught students for a while. How many years have you been
So this is my 5th year.
5th year.
Right.
So do you have any memorable experience, whether in school, in your postgrad study outside, or any experience that you'd like to share that you think is very memorable? Share with us.
Is it with interaction with the students, or?
It could be interaction with the students, or in class, or outside.
Right, there are quite a lot of them. I remember supervising one of the students, and then she did quite a lot of work in the early stages, and then get into the middle portion of it, doesn't have to change your title or your topic. You have to start something all over, and she was just weeping, and I felt so horrible. And I know most students don't like that, right? But sometimes as you sit in the seat and begin to drive it, you can think that, no, this is not the direction I want to go, or the student's strength and capacity is not able to, I need to do some change. And change is something that most people don't like, and there are quite a number of times when students don't really appreciate it from that point of view. But what can we do? Sometimes it has to be. And so if some of you get a project change, maybe a month or two for you to go, it could be. It's not so normal, but when it happens, you have to have the heart to be able to take it, right? That becomes very important. And this is one of the things that I remember quickly. There are quite a number of them, but maybe for the sake of time, maybe we wouldn't have the privilege to talk about all, right?
Okay, so for the sake of the final years who are willing to further their studies, would like to know how to access scholarships and schools for postgrad studies. Would you recommend any for us?
Yeah, Liata, I mean, this is really an important area, and it's extremely integral, particularly given the fact that most of our students, I mean, if you take a course like biochemistry, today I recommend that to be advanced. You do at least a master's level, if possible you can continue. There are quite a number of opportunities out there, and the competition, again, is also not, is very key, which means that you have to have what the funders are looking for, or what maybe other investigators are looking for you to get into their domain to be selected. There are quite a number of areas that one can get into. One of the areas that you can get is that, for instance, there are a lot of websites where they publish scholarship opportunities, and therefore I will recommend the student, there are specific websites, like for instance, if you take the DAD, they give a lot of scholarship, and my interaction with them, there are a lot of opportunities for students from developing countries, and so this is an area that one can look out for. There are quite a number of other scholarship bodies around today that offer. The challenge has been because of the COVID, so movements from one part to the other in terms of the country or to other countries is a little bit restricted to a certain extent. But that notwithstanding, there are quite a number of graduate opportunities or even graduate opportunities that students can access. And I believe that for most of our final years, I wish that we could have a time and then go through maybe some seminars to really expose them, to introduce some of the techniques, even how to write to professors out there to request for either or to ask for either graduate positions in their labs and some of these things. Most of them work. But the other thing is that the selection of people to labs or to other programs also depends on some of the quality, what you've done with your time. Right, so people come to me, Dr. Kwarteng, can you write me a recommendation letter? I can write it, but sometimes I'm not comfortable writing because I cannot write that the student is so, don't pick this student or something like that. I mean, it's a competition, so I have to write something good about you. But sometimes some of you guys come with nothing to write, all right? And so it makes it a bit difficult. And if somebody is going to select you, he's going to select based on a recommendation. So what have you done to be recommended? So you need to have done some internship somewhere. You should have maybe participated in a program. You should have led something. You should have contributed to something. These are all leadership skills or laboratory skills or something that we can say, okay, it gives us a signal that once you give me the push, you can go over there. But if you've done nothing, then it becomes a little bit of a... So I encourage all our students to participate in research activities, participate in community activities, even within the university community. If there's an activity you can take part, it's add to building your talents, increasing your visibility, increasing your interaction with other people, and that could be the basis that we can continue to build on. So I think that becomes very important. But it's a very important area, and I'm always available for interaction with students whenever anybody needs that support. I think I'll always be supported. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
We'll arrange and then come and see you.
I will appreciate that very much.
So as an immunologist with COVID-19 here, I want to ask, have you taken your vaccine yet?
Yes, I've taken my vaccine. I took it Monday, on the 8th. I took my vaccine, very experiential, and I was a little bit skeptical initially taking it because we had done some survey around trying to look at people's preparedness or hesitancy otherwise towards vaccination, and there was very phenomenal findings that were obtained. Majority of the study participants were not willing to take the vaccine because they think that it's a scam, and they had a lot of other opinions, which we are preparing a manuscript to put out the observation and the thoughts of the participants, and majority of them were also thinking that because the vaccine is new, it was not safe, and they wouldn't want people to, they are not willing to participate, and they want to wait to see people's reaction or reactivity before. So
part of those people.
You are part of, okay, so I'm not surprised, and but of course, nevertheless, I took it, and I had some reactions as normal headache, joint pains, but after a couple of days, I was okay. So I think I encourage all of you, as many as you, to go for it. All right, maybe your opinion could differ from mine, but from where I said, I think vaccines are good, and over the years, we've been vaccinated. I mean, look at the childhood, polio, typhoid, there are so many, yellow fever, we take them. I mean, before you travel, we ask for, where's a yellow fever card or vaccination? And so, these are things that we do. I know there are some exceptions to that, but we should forget about the theories or the conspiracy theories, and then allow ourselves to go through the process so that we can protect the population. This, I think, is extremely important and needs to be encouraged.
Thank you very much. I mean, you're talking from the immunologist's point of view.
Definitely.
Sure. So we'd like to know, as students, relationships is something that we can't do away with. So what is your take on biochemistry students getting into relationships with, not the normal friendships and all of that, but the romantic or sexual relationships with biochemistry students and other students. What is your take on it? Did you involve yourself in it when you were in school, or you waited till you were done? And what advice would you have for us?
Unbelievable. This is extremely interesting arena you want to take me to, and I believe that all the students are going to open their ears to hear what I say. But of course, I mean, on a serious note, human beings are made to relate, and the relationship has to be looked at to see whether it's going to be beneficial or not. I cannot at any point in time dictate or suggest to one person relate or do not relate. These decisions must come from your personal assessment to see if it's going to be helpful. Of course, some of the relationship could be detrimental, i.e., that means it's going to take your time, it's going to derail your purpose, it's going to maybe disturb your stability, because as you go into deep relations, sometimes become a bit emotional. So all these costs must be counted for, and to see whether you are in the capacity to handle, particularly since most of the relationship may end up with, let's say, broken heart. Are you in the capacity to handle that with your biochemistry in addition? I cannot say go in for or do not go for. But what I can say, you have to assess yourself to see that given that the task for you here is to study and to accomplish a particular specific targets, I will go in for that. But then in addition, as humans, we relate. But you have to be, at which point do you want to go into that relationship, and how helpful is that going to be? If I say don't relate, well, of course I'll be living in the other side of the world. But if you have to go into it, you need to be very circumspect about that. You need to know whether it's going to be beneficial. That is an internal and individual assessment. Once you're able to do that, it's up to you to decide whether you want to go for. But one has to be very cautious about that, because we've heard of several relationships that ended up and people got derailed in terms of their academic performance. Because relationship, I always replace it with the word sacrifice. It comes with a lot of sacrifice. Sacrificing your emotion, sacrificing your time, sacrificing your resources, and several other things. And you have to be matured enough to be able to go into it. But of course, I mean, we can relate. Hello, hi, what's up? People in class and so forth and so on. But when you want to take into at the deeper level, you should have the capacity to handle deeper things. If you have that capacity, it's up to you. If you don't have, then you go through as it is and also bear the brunt. And so I cannot say here nor there, but one has to weigh the balance to see which one to take, and then I think that should be fine. Right.
This has been very inspiring and educative and entertaining. We would like to have your last words, your final words, any advice for biochemistry students and students of KNUST as a whole. What would you like to tell us?
Thank you very much for that. And I think that what I would say is that the world is becoming competitive, and it's already competitive, which means that our students should have the mindset of fighting. Over the years, what I see our students doing is they want to sit and wait that things to come my way. It doesn't happen any longer. In the academia, I tell the students most of the time that success is not something that happens accidentally, it's intentional. You have to make up your mind to be successful or to succeed, which means that you have to be determined, which means that you have to keep knocking at the door, which means that you have to sit long hours to study, which means that you have to make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's, which means that you have to chase your faculties, say, I don't understand this principle, please can you explain this to me? And you have to be engaging. You have to do something within the society. Forget about getting your BSc, how do you call it, biochemistry, BSc, biology, whatever. That one will definitely come, but do something in addition. And so today the world is becoming more technology driven, which means that you need some IT, bioinformatics background to be able to handle data. So these are things that I think that additional soft skills that our students need. And I will encourage all of us, or most of our students, to go into programming, to be able to do some coding in addition to the certificate that we are going to get, that will make us more competitive out there and will eventually help us at the end. And I believe that the sky is the limit. KNU is one of the best universities you can find around, where it has one of the best, it's a community with the best brains, and if you are here, for me, it's a blessing. And there are a lot of our alumni all over the world doing extremely very, very good, because we try to give our students a very good foundation for them to continue to build upon. And I think that cannot be replaced by any other thing. And our students should keep learning very hard, learning smart, and then keep engaging themselves within the community and among themselves. And I'm sure that at the end of the day, that is going to be very wonderful for all of us. Right.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation and agreeing to be our guest for the maiden edition of this show.
Thank you.
Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the maiden edition of Biochemistry to the World. Catch the editorial board next week Friday for another episode. Till then, keep observing the safety protocols, wash your hands with soap and running water, and keep wearing your nose mask. Goodbye.